Well, alrighty then. This is part 5. This is turning into a Friday the 13th situation. uh, this one's about suppose you're a klutz. And we all are. Let's face it, And this is why we need slow thinking. And this is why we need to, I have a prayer that I say. I'm attracting guides and guidance. And also, I have a prayer, I want to give and accept guidance. And I have been, doing my best to live these prayers, and actually accept having my prayers answered, So I'm proud of myself. I'm practicing what I preach. And this helped me realize that I'm a klutz, because I lived in an illusion that I wasn't, and it was good to be home, and so for example, if you're a trader and you're noticing some klutziness, you just have to tighten your rules and fine-tune them. But a lot of times that means eliminating them. Like, I just got rid of a rule because I realized that what I needed to do, instead of have a rule, was, there's this this method of analysis that I use. I basically, what I did with my own trading. My mother was a big fan of Jesse Livermore, and she probably actually knew him, at least to say hello to, because she was there in the same Wall Street that he was. That's where she traded. That's what enables her to trade. My mother traded all through the Depression, and at the end, in the early 1940s, she had made enough money to move to Florida, buy a house, buy a truck for her business, and a car, and and start a business and all this. She really just kept at it and did well. She was a good trader. But the thing was, the reason she was able to trade, she was in an empty boardroom. There was nobody there, because it was the Great Depression. They all lost all their money. So all those guys that would hang around in the bullpen, they were gone, wiped out, So she could hang out. The brokers were like dying to talk to her, whereas had she gone in there in 1928, which she probably did too, they would have been, kind of turning a cold shoulder, because they wanted to deal with men. But the men were few and far between in the 1930s. they were all out trying to get a bowl of soup. So, but what Livermore did was he created a very simple system, which is very much like the Strat, which is something that I really like, this kind of trading, where, and it's the same thing. It establishes levels. They use trend lines too, but the trend lines are, they're just more like moving levels. I put some in sometimes here and there, but I don't expect much from trend lines or levels or anything. What I know about levels is that levels define places where you'll probably see some kind of a reaction. Either it goes through it or it doesn't. And, so many times it just goes to a level and stops. And so really, the thing that I love about, one of the main things I love about the Strat is that he was saying that these levels are not support and resistance levels, they are targets. And that is exactly what they are. So this is what I then use to evaluate things. And so I made a tool that will draw ones in a specific tight area where the price seems to be moving around. And what I made a rule about using that, and then I threw the rule out because I realized that what is needed is just to develop more skill with that particular thing, which I have done, but there is always, the truth is with skill, there's no limit to the amount of skill you can develop, even with just a simple thing. So, but this is an example of making tighter rules, because actually the rule that I made for this, which is not written down, the unwritten rule, is that I'm going to just have to recognize where I wasn't skillful and insert skill in there. And I have actually done that too, Anyway, so the thing we're pointing to here is, if you're a klutz, you make a very highly complex set of rules, but they also have to be, confluent with each other, congruent with each other, so that they one rule flows into the others, and they all kind of create a logical set of rules. Like they're not a cacophony of rules, but you can have as many of them as you want, and you will remember them if they work together, and you won't if they don't. So it's hard to remember things that are dissonant. That's why I never, you notice nobody ever walks down the street whistling Schoenberg. They whistle Mozart, or they walk down the street rapping, or whatever in this day and age. Anyway, so with relationship, what do is, if you're a klutz in relationship, you're going to have to, if you're going to have a relationship at all, you're going to have to structure it in a way that works, and make the commitments that you can keep and that will work. And I think that one commitment that Franny and I made to each other is that we can do what we want. So Franny has always done what she wants, and a lot of the things she wants don't make any sense to me, and then some of them make a lot of sense, like taking care of her family, and being very committed to them and their well-being, and also just liking and enjoying their company, and so on. Well, her family are all very enjoyable to be around, so that's true, Like, there's nobody in her family I don't like talking to. I always, feel like talking to them, Her kids, I'm not her kids, our niece and nephew are also great, they're fun and funny and entertaining. And it just, it spreads through people if they hang out together. So, but that was a commitment that we both made to each other, that, and what I want to do doesn't usually make sense to her either, I guess, And we also built a church together, and Franny did what she knows to do in that effort, and I did what I know to do. And that's another thing, that we both do what we're good at, and we don't expect, each of us don't expect the other person to do what they're not good at or don't want to do. So, of course, there are limits. I mean, I may sometimes need to stretch myself a little bit, to do things I don't think I'm good at, because, it just is more expedient for me to do them than for Franny to do them. And vice versa, I'm sure, but I can't speak for her past a certain point. So this is, I think, the formula for handling your klutziness is, and there always is one, if you stop and slow down and think, like, how can I handle this? And you will find a way. You shall. Nothing's insurmountable. You can be totally incapable of having a relationship and still have one. Well, maybe not totally. I mean, if you're, like, I don't know, there are certain people who really can't. Well, I'll tell you something. There are a lot of people who really can't have a relationship. They're in negative beingness, and so they can't bond. And the recourse for them is to get into a support group, like form a support group with other people who are in negative beingness, and make frank and honest, do the 12 steps, do the things that people do in that program, and you will be able to advance that way. I guarantee it. That stuff works. Okay.